Welcome back to another Warrior Wednesday with all my wealthy warriors. I hope you've had an amazing week so far. I hope you have been growing, through every situation that you've been dealt with this past week. And thank you for tuning in. Sukni for tuning in again. And I was recently out on a drive. I was driving to a place, obviously. But there's this place here in the Lower Mainland, the unceded Coast Salish territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh people. It's right on the brinks of Vancouver and Burnaby. And there's this road. It's called Boundary Road. And if you're from this area, or you've ever been to this area before, and you've actually been on Boundary Road, as you're going up from, I think it's First. If you're going up from First Ave, and you're traveling north to Hastings on Boundary, they have these massive power lines, these very, very tall power lines. And amongst these power lines are these trees. And these trees are very, very, very unique. And it had me thinking on how, as human beings, we are the only, organisms, mechanisms, whatever you want to call us, living things on this earth that don't amount to what we are supposed to be, how we don't grow into what we're meant to be, how we don't flourish into the biggest, strongest, best versions of ourselves. And we have, such a complex mind, but we're the only ones that don't grow to our fullest potential. And these trees are living proof that those trees will grow no matter what to their fullest potential. Animals, everything in life will grow to its fullest potential that it was, it was born to do. So you're probably asking yourself, well, Peter, how so? What's so unique about these trees? And what's unique about these trees, as I mentioned, those power lines, and electricity. If you know anything about electricity, you can't see it. And when it's at certain voltages, electricity will actually, it'll, I'm trying to figure out the proper term for it. But there's limiting approaches to electricity, because electricity will actually jump from one object to another to reach the ground, because that's what electricity wants to do, is it wants to go back into the ground. So that's why if you've ever seen a bird and it lands on a power line, well, it's safe, because it's insulated through the power line. But let's say if that bird had a massive tail, just a very, very long tail, and it sat on that power line, and then its tail got close to the ground or touched the ground. Well, ultimately what that power would do is it would jump through the bird, through the tail, and go to the ground. So what does it have to do with the tree? You're wondering probably. But you know what's phenomenal is that these trees they will actually grow, they will start to grow up. And then when that electricity, that energy, you can tell where that limiting approach is to that electricity, right? Where it will jump. Well, what it does is that it actually starts to grow sideways. It literally starts to grow horizontal. And most trees, like, they grow vertical. They do grow, horizontal to an extent. But these trees go straight horizontal, and then they go up, which is pretty fascinating, right? Like, if you ever get a chance, it might even be on Google. I've never Googled it before because I've just experienced it in real life, right? But look up trees on Boundary Road, Vancouver. And it's pretty fascinating to see these trees on how they will they'll grow out of their way to become their fullest potential. They will literally grow sideways and then up so they can become their fullest potential. And how, us as human beings, how we have choice, how we have emotions, how we have all these things, but yet we don't grow into what we were meant to be. And I really, really reflected on that. Like if we actually started to become like these trees, to start growing in to what we were meant to be in this world, just imagine how more amazing we would be as a human society together. How far advanced we would be. How less depression, how less depressed people there would be. How many less people who have anxiety would be out there. How much, the suicide rates would go down. How drugs and alcohol usage would go down. If we started to grow into what we were meant to be, all these things would start to go down. The numbers would start to go down. There would be less homeless people out there. There would be more happy people in this world if we just took that simple concept of these trees and growing into what we were meant to be. And when you see a tree, ultimately, when it gets as tall as it gets, it still doesn't stop growing because its roots, it starts to grow deeper, stronger roots, so it can withstand any storm. And it can also, live to what it's fully meant to be. And that's us as human beings too, right? Growth always doesn't have to be physical growth. It could be mental growth. It could be growth with inside of you, having a growth mindset, that is the true growth where strength comes from. Because a tree will grow really high, right? But if it doesn't have strong roots, if it's not founded into the earth, what's going to happen when that first windstorm hits? Well, it's going to fall over. Yeah, it may be really, really tall on the outside, but it'll just fall over that first storm that happens. And that's the same like us as human beings. We need to go deep down inside of us, and we need to ask ourselves, what do I really want from life? What do I want from life? Do I want to just have emotionalist life, just going through the day-to-day thing, the mundane life? Or do I really want to live a life that I enjoyed living? Let's say it was your last day on earth, and then you, like the movies, you had a flashback of your whole life. Are you really going to want to watch that movie? Or is it just going to be the same mundane thing every day? And if you're okay with that, with having a mundane life, then that's okay, right? But I truly don't believe deep down inside you want to have a life like that. You want to have a life like that tree. Like you're gonna grow no matter what comes in front of you. Even an electrical cable of those size and that amperage or wattage that's coming off that electricity cable, it'll grow around it. Like, whoa, well, you know what? You're not stopping me from growing to my full potential. Doesn't matter if you're electricity. I'm just gonna grow around you. And that's the way you need to be as well. Certain situations in life happen. Yes. Certain things are not fair. And there's this saying that Les Brown says, life isn't fair. Birds eat worms. It just is what it is. But the circle of life, you know what happens? Yes, that bird eats the worms. But eventually, that bird will die, and the worms and the bugs will eat that bird. The circle of life. The same thing goes with you. If you do everything in your power to become the person you are meant to be in this world, your gift will save someone. Doesn't matter what it is. Someone will ultimately be inspired by you. Even if it's just a friend or a family member. Someone's gonna be inspired by you. Which will spark that fire within them. Which so on will spark someone else. That ripple effect. And just understand that you, as a human being, were born more to than just paying bills and dying. You were. I was born more to just pay bills and die. That's why I started this podcast. You are the same way. You don't have to go out and start a podcast, Do what's in your heart. And if you start to get more mindful and you start to hone in on yourself, if you start to become more mindful by taking 5 to 10 minutes a day to meditate, to declutter, to set that the timer, set your timer on your phone for every hour to breathe deep, 5 deep breaths into your belly. Eventually, you will see what you are meant to do in this world. Who knows? Maybe you already know what you were born to do in this world. But until you start to become more mindful, and declutter that mind, you won't, it'll be a lot harder to figure out what you are meant to do. I would have never known I was supposed to do a podcast if I wasn't listening to my gut feelings, if I wasn't meditating, if I wasn't focusing on my breath on a daily basis. My mind would always be full of clutter and mess, and I wouldn't be able to hone in on that. That little tiny saying that said, just start a podcast. And it was so subtle, that little hint, just start it. What are you waiting for? It was so subtle that if I didn't declutter my mind, I may have never heard it. I may have never became that tree. Maybe I would have just I just wouldn't start. Just give up before I even started, right? Because my self-doubt would have came in play. Oh, who are you to start a podcast? Who's going to listen to you, All these things that are limiting beliefs within my mind, I would have listened to those instead of listening to my gut and going with my gut. So I I don't know what what I could say for you to start investing into yourself. You were blessed with life. 1 out of 400 trillion chances it took for you to be born today, for you to be sitting here or walking or doing whatever you're doing and listening to this podcast. 1 out of 400 trillion chances that you were born. It took your parents meeting at a certain time and making love when they did to have you. But you go and think about further than that. Think about your grandparents on both your parents' side, how they had to meet at that specific time and make love at that specific time to create your grandparents, and then so on and so on. It's crazy how to think that all of your ancestors before you had to meet when they did, and for everything to happen in order for you to be here. So why are you not becoming the best version of yourself? Why aren't you becoming the person you are meant to be? Why aren't you sharing your gift with this world? Having a gift and not sharing it is what dampens this world. Just imagine your gift as a light. And say I took my time, personal time to give you this gift. I wrapped it up, I really thought about it, and then I gave it to you, and I said, you can't open it though. Just imagine, right? You would always wonder what it was. What if? And that's what happens if we don't follow our dreams. It'll be a what if. You will always wonder. You will always dread it. You will always regret it. And there's 2 types of pains in this world. And I quoted it on my Instagram. There's the pain of discipline, and then there's the pain of regret. I would much rather have the pain of discipline than I would of regret. I'd much rather have the pain, even though it's not painful for me to sit here and talk. But I would much rather have the pain of sitting there editing my videos, sitting there uploading them to the podcast station and my YouTube channel, which the YouTube channel usually gives me more trouble of growth. But I know when I upload that video, it's gonna help someone. It's gonna spark that fire within someone. And it's like an archive, these videos will be there forever. So my grandchildren one day will be able to sit there and listen to me talk. Listen to this present moment of me talking, which is pretty phenomenal, right? And it's crazy when you think about it. That things we do today will affect someone, Either we're going to leave trauma and hardship to loved ones and family someday in the future that they ultimately will have to get over, or we start to hone in on our dreams and inspire people. And then when we do that, we get more confident in ourselves, and so on and so on. And we start to heal ourselves. So when we have children, or if you have children, they don't have to grow through the situations you had to grow through. Just like me getting sober, me getting healthy. My kids will never have to struggle through the things I had to as a kid, because I'm doing the work right now to become that tree. I'm doing the work. I'm seeing a counselor. I'm meditating. I'm eating healthy. I read books. And you don't have to do all of these things that I do, because everyone is different. But this just is what works for me. And I know for a fact that my kids will not be born into someone that has a ton of trauma that they haven't worked on yet. So then my kids have less to go fight against, They have less. There's still things they'll have to put fights in towards, but they won't have to spend that extra time healing their traumas, They can just get up and start becoming that tree that they were meant to be, because they will already have strong roots within them, grounded, the foundation that I laid for them. So if you want 2022 to be a phenomenal year, start to become that tree. Start to grow no matter what life throws at you. Because when you live within your gift, you're spreading that light to everyone around you. Everyone. Everyone will be affected by your energy. They will see some kind of glow. They'll be like, whoa, what's going on with you? You're different. You're amazing to be around. I really enjoy being around you, because they'll feed off of your energy and your light, and you will light their world. So become that tree, because you're worth it. You were born to be something that you were meant to be, and whatever that is, let it be. Become that tree. With that, I'm off. I will see you next week. Sukani on Winnigat Dagas. And remember, everything always happens for the right reasons. Take care.